to write you this song.
What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel, and in this video we're doing something a little different. We are going on a journey because I want to talk about today the board games that got me into the hobby. So let's get going, and we're going to talk about some board games. So the first game that I want to talk about is Katan. And some of you are going to think, he's talking about Katan? Why is he talking about Katan? We don't talk about Katan anymore. Well, you know what? I think I have to talk about Katan. I think a lot of you will have to talk about Katan if you're talking about the games that get you into the hobby. Katan is special for me, not just because it was one of the first hobby board games that I played that opened my mind to what hobby board gaming could be, but also because it was the first time that I realized that I could play games and keep pace with the people that I was playing with. My experience playing board games in my childhood was fairly negative, where even if I was a kid playing with my mom or something, I just didn't understand or grok a lot of the rules or what I was supposed to be doing, even something as simple as sorry or trouble. I just, for whatever reason, I was behind the eight ball on understanding what to do when playing games. And so I always felt bad about myself after playing games, and I just didn't like the experience that much. And that just continued. So in middle school and high school, my buddies would play Risk a lot, and I just was always the first one to be eliminated from those games. I just didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing. I liked the camaraderie and the social aspect of it, but I often felt lost with actually being competitive. Until Katan came along. A really good friend of mine, Mike, he sort of stepped in as a dad to me when I was growing up. So I call him my dad. He introduced me to Katan. He was starting to get into hobby games, and Katan was the first thing that kind of blew up for him. And so he shared that with me. And while we were playing that, it was the first time where I understood what I was supposed to be doing. I realized how I could take advantage of the rules of the game to get ahead. And while I didn't win my first game of it, I held on to Longest Road for a while, and I just felt good being able to kind of set out with a strategy and accomplish that strategy. And so Katan was the first board game that made me think that maybe I could get into enjoying board games. And while I'm not a huge fan of Katan now, I owe it a lot for opening up my heart and mind to the fact that board games are fun. So here we are in the middle of a field, just hanging out. So this is going to be a list of 5 games, I think, and number 2 and 3 come together. So my girlfriend and I at the time, we were introduced to Carcassonne and Blockus by friends of ours. And both of those games, different in their own respects, kind of have a similar kind of puzzly feel. Blockus, if you don't know, is this mass market produced game where you got these polyomino shapes, Tetris style pieces that you're trying to put out on a board, and each player kind of has their own color and corner to start in. And basically each piece that you attach, you have to connect it to one of your previous pieces that you placed. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of worm them up across the board so that as you play, you have the most space covered than any of the other players. And this idea just kind of captured me as just this unique, cool, new style of game, this puzzly, this kind of outsmart your opponent style of game, and it really intrigued me. So Carcassonne also blew me away, not just because of the great game that it was, and still is, but because of the art. It just had this nice medieval theme, and the art had this serene style going for it. I don't know, I hadn't seen anything like it up until that point, and it's an art style that has become indicative of Euro style gaming, which is my preferred place to be in the hobby. So Carcassonne became the entryway for me for the modern Euro game. And the gameplay itself became so addictive to me, just this challenge of having one tile and having to place it amongst everybody else's tiles and hoping that you can optimize that move the best way possible to get the most points. It just became this thing where I wanted to play this game again and again and again. And so Carcassonne inched me further into the hobby game and kind of piqued my interest into what else is out there in this genre of gaming. All right. Duly noted. So number 4 is where it gets serious for me. This is when I discovered Dominion. My roommates and I were addicted to Dominion online. We would play it all the time against each other, and we were always trying to up our skills. It's funny because it was probably only a week of my life, but I would come home every day and there would be a challenge to play Dominion amongst me and my roommates. And it was just delightful. It was a season of our life. We were coming to the end of an era. We were all moving out of our house that we had lived in for 3 years together, and we were moving on, and it was just this really great capstone to a really great time in my life. So Dominion came at a perfect time where I was ready for more in my gaming life, and it provided that thrill. Dominion was the first game that I fell in love with, and I could truly say that I fell deeply and madly in love. The game was magical of some kind. The way that everything worked together, it was my first introduction to deck building, and so it was this just whole new world of, whoa, so I get a card that I didn't have before, and now I keep it, and I can use it to get more cards that I didn't have before, and I get to keep those. And as simple as that sounds, it was just mind-blowing to me at the time. And so Dominion came in all flashy and new, and with this feeling of camaraderie between me and my roommates, and I've just never forgotten that. Well, here we go, folks, on my number 5. My number 5 is an interesting one. This is Evo. I don't know if anybody has heard of Evo. It was a reprint of a game which was all about evolving dinosaurs. And at the time, the new edition, Evo, spruced up the lore a little bit, kind of made things more interesting. It was all about tribes of people who genetically modified dinos to win points in an area control style game. And so Evo, while it didn't stand the test of time for me in the annals of my gaming history, it did do something really important. It made me believe that there was always going to be a game out there for me. So Mike invited me to a game day, and that's where I ran into Evo. So at this game day, my mind was blown away once again. There was just a table full of games that I'd never heard of before. There were Seasons and Factory Fun, Takanoko. Those were just games that I can remember being there, but I just remember just being awestruck with all the games that there were and just all of the variety. And so someone invited me to play a game of Evo, and I played it and I really enjoyed it. I understood what was going on, I did fairly well, and so it was a really great introduction into the variety of games that were out there. Then later in the day we played Seasons, and Seasons was totally over my head. I could not understand how to get any points in Seasons, and if I'm to be honest, I still struggle with getting points when I play Seasons. While there was always going to be games that were going to be over my head, or it was going to take me a while to understand them or get into them, that there was also always going to be games that I could jump right into and have fun. So since then, I've been off to the races. All right, party people, there we go. I had to run back to the car because it started raining, but there is 5 games that got me into the hobby. 5 games that started me out on this journey. What games got you into the hobby? What games are at the beginning of your road into hobby board gaming? Let me know in the comments down below. And please, please, until we see each other again, have the best day.